Her way of feeding the puppy with her own milk left the human speechless. Marcus Thine stepped off his personal shuttle onto the pristine landing pad of the Celestial Embassy, a small white bundle squirming in his arms. The crystalline spires of the diplomatic complex stretched toward the violet sky of Nexus Prime, their surfaces reflecting the light of the system's twin suns. He adjusted his formal military attire, making sure the commander's insignia gleamed properly on his chest. "Easy there, little guy," he murmured to the puppy, who was trying to peek out of the soft blanket. "You'll meet her soon enough." The thought of Lainey's reaction brought a smile to his face. In the 6 months since he'd been assigned as the human military liaison to the Etherian delegation, their relationship had evolved from professional courtesy to something far more interesting. The flirtatious banter and lingering touches during diplomatic functions had become the highlight of his posting. The embassy's main hall was quiet, save for the gentle hum of environmental systems and the clicking of his boots on the polished floor. As he approached Lainey's office, his heart rate picked up, a reaction she could probably sense from meters away, given her species' heightened empathic abilities. The door slid open before he could announce himself. Lainey stood there, her emerald blue skin practically glowing in the ambient light. The form-fitting, white diplomatic attire she wore left little to imagination, while somehow maintaining perfect professional decorum. Her white hair cascaded down her back in gentle waves, and those silver eyes of hers sparkled with their usual mischief. "Commander Thane," she purred, her voice carrying that musical quality unique to Etherians. To what do I owe this unexpected pleasure?" Before he could respond, the bundle in his arms let out a tiny yip. Lainey's eyes widened, her composed demeanor cracking as curiosity overtook her features. "What was that sound?" Marcus grinned and pulled back the blanket, revealing the small white puppy with oversized ears. "This is Max. He's what we call a dog, specifically a puppy. They're companion animals from Earth." Lainey's reaction was everything he'd hoped for and more. Her silver eyes grew impossibly large, and a sound somewhere between a gasp and a squeal escaped her lips. "By the celestial harmonies, what is... may I..." She reached out tentatively, and Marcus carefully transferred the puppy into her arms. Max immediately started licking her face, causing her to laugh in delight. "He's perfect, but why?" "He's yours," Marcus said. "If you want him, his mother didn't survive the birthing, and when I heard about it, I thought..." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Well, I remembered how fascinated you were by Earth's wildlife during our discussions." Lainey cradled the puppy close to her chest, her expression softening. "No, mother." She looked down at Max, who was now contentedly snuggling against her. Without hesitation, she opened the front of her diplomatic robe slightly, positioning the puppy against her bare skin. Marcus's jaw dropped as he realized what she was doing. "Lainey, what are you..." "He needs mother's milk," she said matter-of-factly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "All Etherian females can nurture any young creature. It's part of our biology." She smiled as Max began to suckle. "See? He knows exactly what to do." Marcus stood there, completely speechless. In all his years of interstellar diplomacy, nothing had prepared him for this moment. It was simultaneously the most bizarre and most touching thing he'd ever witnessed. That's..." he stammered, trying to find appropriate words. Lainey's musical laughter filled the room. "Oh, Marcus, you humans are so adorably provincial sometimes. And come, sit with me. Tell me everything I need to know about raising a puppy." They spent the next hour on her office's plush couch, with Lainey alternating between asking detailed questions about care and cooing at Max. Marcus found himself constantly distracted by the casual intimacy of the moment, by how natural it felt to be sharing this with her. "You know," Lainey said softly, stroking Max's head as he dozed in her arms, "in Etherian culture, gifting a young creature to someone is considered a very intimate gesture. Some might even see it as a declaration of intent." Marcus felt heat rise to his face. "I didn't mean to presume. Didn't you?" Her silver eyes locked with his, full of warmth and something more. "We've been dancing around this for months, Marcus. Perhaps it's time we stop pretending this is just diplomatic relations." Before he could respond, his comm unit chimed with an urgent alert. Both their expressions fell. They knew that particular tone meant serious business. "Commander Thane," a clipped voice came through. "Your presence is required in the Emergency Operations Center immediately. Priority 1. Marcus stood straightening his uniform. "Duty calls. Will you be all right with him?" Lainey nodded, her professional mask sliding back into place even as she cradled Max protectively. "We'll be fine. Go, but Marcus?" She caught his eye as he turned to leave. "This conversation isn't over." He smiled, allowing himself one last look at the striking image they made, the elegant Etherian diplomat nursing a tiny Earth puppy. "I'm counting on that." The Emergency Operations Center hummed with tense activity as Marcus burst through the doors. Holographic displays filled the air, with cascading data streams, their red warning indicators reflecting off the worried faces of the technical staff. "Status report," he barked, falling easily into command mode, despite his thoughts still lingering on the intimate moment he just left behind. Chief Engineer Harrison, a grizzled veteran of countless crises, looked up from his console. "The quantum core's containment field is destabilizing, sir. We've got fluctuations in the harmonic resonance that's keeping the reaction stable." "How bad?" "Bad enough that we've already started evacuating the lower levels. If the containment fails completely..." Harrison let the implications hang in the air. Marcus's jaw tightened. The quantum core powered everything in the diplomatic sector. Life support, gravity, shields. If it went critical, they'd lose a lot more than just power. "Show me." The main holographic display expanded, revealing a three-dimensional representation of the core. The usually stable blue energy field pulsed erratically, areas of dangerous red spreading like a virus through the system. The Etherian section, Marcus realized, his heart rate spiking. "It's directly above the core." Harrison nodded grimly. "Their quarters will be the first affected if we lose containment. We've got maybe 30 minutes before..." "Not happening," Marcus cut him off. "Options?" "We could try to manually realign the quantum matrix," one of the younger engineers suggested. "But the radiation levels in the core chamber..." "Would kill anyone who tried," Harrison finished, "even in our best radiation suits." Marcus studied the holographic display, his mind racing. "What about the Etherian shielding technology? Their personal shields are rated for deep space exposure." "Those aren't compatible with our systems," Harrison started to say, then paused. "Unless..." "Commander, are you thinking what I'm thinking?" "Get me a direct line to Ambassador Laney," Marcus ordered, already moving toward the equipment lockers. "And find me someone who can modify an Etherian shield generator to interface with a human radiation suit." The next 20 minutes were a blur of preparations. Marcus found himself in a hybrid contraption of human and Etherian technology, the familiar weight of his radiation suit augmented by the ethereal shimmer of alien shielding. "This is insane," Harrison muttered as he checked the final connections. "Even with the combined protection, you'll have maybe 5 minutes before the radiation starts breaking through." "Then I better work fast," Marcus replied, his voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut. The thought of Laney and Max above, potentially in danger, steeled his resolve. The comm system crackled. "Marcus!" Laney's voice carried a note of concern he'd never heard before. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" "Probably something stupid," he admitted, managing a smile she couldn't see through his helmet. "But necessary. How's Max?" "Sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of the crisis, much like I'd prefer you to be right now." Her attempt at humor couldn't quite mask her worry. "The shielding modification was my idea. That doesn't mean I wanted you to be the one testing it." "Who better? Besides," he added, moving toward the core chamber airlock, "I still owe you the rest of our conversation." "Then you better survive this," she said softly, "because I have quite a lot more to say to you." The core chamber was a cathedral of light and energy, the quantum reaction contained within creating patterns that would drive mathematicians mad with their complexity. Under normal circumstances, it was beautiful. Now, with the containment field failing, it was terrifying. Marcus moved carefully across the maintenance gantry, each step calculated. The hybrid shield hummed around him, its blue glow mixing with the core's unstable light show. 3 minutes, Harrison's voice came through his comm. "The radiation's already stronger than we calculated." Marcus reached the main control panel, his fingers flying over the interface. "Uploading the realignment sequence now. How are the evacuation efforts?" Upper levels are clear except for essential personnel, a pause, and one very stubborn ambassador who refuses to leave her office. Despite the situation, Marcus felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the rising radiation levels. "Tell her that's an order." "I did." She said, and I quote, "Human military ranks hold no authority over Etherian diplomatic staff. She's quite formidable." "You have no idea," Marcus muttered, focusing on the final calculations. The radiation was beginning to make his skin tingle, even through the protection. Initiating realignment. Now. The core's chaotic patterns stuttered, then began to smooth out. The red warning areas gradually shifted back to blue as the containment field stabilized. "It's working!" Harrison exclaimed. "Get out of there, Commander! Your shield is—" The warning came too late. The hybrid protection flickered and failed, leaving only his basic suit between him and the core's full fury. Marcus stumbled, his vision blurring as radiation alarms screamed in his helmet. The last thing he heard before losing consciousness was Laney's voice. No longer diplomatic or playful, but raw with emotion. "Marcus." He awoke to the sensation of something wet on his face. Opening his eyes, he found Max enthusiastically licking his cheek while Laney watched from beside his medical bed, her silver eyes bright with unshed tears. "You," she said, her voice wavering between relief and anger, "are the most foolish, reckless, absolutely magnificent human I have ever met. How long was I out?" His throat felt raw. "Long enough for me to decide that if you ever do something like that again, I will personally ensure you spend the rest of your life doing nothing more dangerous than filing diplomatic reports." She leaned closer, her white hair falling like a curtain around them. "The doctors say you'll make a full recovery. The Etherian shield, even failing, protected you from the worst of it." Marcus tried to sit up, but found himself gently but firmly pushed back down, both by Laney's hand and Max's determined puppy presence on his chest. "I think," Laney continued, her tone softening, "that we need to have that conversation now, about intentions and declarations, and what happens when an Etherian diplomat finds herself falling in love with a stupidly brave human commander." "Love?" he whispered, his heart monitor betraying his spike in pulse rate. She smiled, tracing a finger along his jaw. "Why else would I share my nurturing gift with your offering? In my culture, that's as good as a marriage proposal." "I didn't know." "Of course you didn't, but you do now." Her silver eyes held his. "So, Commander Thane, what do you intend to do about it?" Before he could answer, Max yipped and snuggled between them, causing them both to laugh. The tension of the day dissolved into something warmer, more intimate, full of promise. News of the successful human-Etherian technology integration spread through the diplomatic sector like wildfire. Within days of Marcus's recovery, the Celestial Embassy buzzed with activity as delegations from both species clamored to understand and replicate the breakthrough. Marcus found himself at the center of this diplomatic whirlwind, though his attention was frequently drawn elsewhere, specifically to the striking figure of Ambassador Laney, who had taken to wearing traditional Etherian formal robes that somehow managed to be both elegantly proper and tantalizingly revealing. "You're staring again, Commander," Laney teased during one particularly lengthy technical briefing. She sat beside him, Max contentedly curled in her lap, occasionally nursing when he stirred. "Can you blame me?" he whispered back, earning a knowing smile that made his pulse quicken. "You're deliberately wearing that shade of blue-green that matches your skin tone." "Perhaps I'm simply embracing the spirit of cultural exchange," she replied innocently, though her silver eyes sparkled with mischief. "After all, isn't that what today's meeting is about?" Before Marcus could respond, Chief Engineer Harrison cleared his throat pointedly from the podium. If the commander and the ambassador would care to share their cultural insights with the rest of us. The room filled with poorly concealed chuckles. Their budding relationship had become something of an open secret, generating both support and speculation throughout the diplomatic community. "Actually," Laney said, rising gracefully with Max in her arms, "I believe I can contribute something relevant to this discussion." She moved to the front of the room, her presence commanding immediate attention. "The success of our hybrid shielding technology demonstrates something my people have always known, that nurturing connections across boundaries, whether technological or biological, is not just possible, but natural." She gestured to Max, who chose that moment to wake and nuzzle against her chest. Just as I can provide sustenance to this Earth creature, our different technologies can be made to work in harmony. The key is understanding and accepting our differences while recognizing our fundamental compatibility. Marcus watched with pride as Lainey transformed what could have been an awkward moment into a powerful diplomatic statement. The assembled delegates leaned forward, captivated by both her words and the living demonstration of cross-species nurturing she presented. The Etherean capacity for universal nurturing evolved from our ancient past one, she continued, gently stroking Max's ears. When our world faced a catastrophic event that threatened multiple species, our ancestors developed the ability to sustain any young creature. It saved not just our own species, but countless others. Fascinating, one of the human scientists murmured. And this ability extends to technology as well? In a way, Lainey smiled, our philosophy of adaptation and nurturing influences everything we do, from biology to engineering. It's why our shielding technology could be modified to work with human systems. It's designed to be responsive and adaptable, just like we are. After the meeting, Marcus found Lainey in her office, gazing out at the spectacular view of Nexus Prime's crystalline cityscape. Max played with a toy on her plush carpet, occasionally glancing up at them with adoring eyes. That was quite a performance, Marcus said, moving to stand beside her. You managed to turn our personal situation into a diplomatic advantage. Was I that transparent? She turned to face him, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. Only to me, he assured her, reaching out to brush a strand of white hair from her face, though I'm pretty sure Harrison knows exactly what's going on between us. And what exactly is going on between us, Commander? Her voice dropped to a sultry purr that sent shivers down his spine. Beyond the obvious cultural exchange, of course. Before he could answer, his comm unit chimed with an incoming message. The holographic display showed Admiral Chander's stern face. Commander Thane, Ambassador Lainey. The Admiral nodded to them both. I apologize for the interruption, but we've received a rather unusual request from the Etherean High Council. Marcus and Lainey exchanged glances. What kind of request, sir? They want to formally recognize your relationship as a template for human-Etherean relations, Chander said, his professional demeanor cracking slightly. Apparently, the combination of your heroic actions during the core crisis and the ambassador's unique approach to caring for Earth fauna has captured their imagination. Lainey's musical laugh filled the room. Oh, this is perfect. In my culture, public recognition of a nurturing bond is considered the highest form of relationship blessing. It's not just recognition they're offering, Chanders continued. They want to establish a joint human-Etherean research initiative, with you two as its heads. Something about exploring the full potential of our species' compatibility. Marcus felt heat rise to his face at the implications, while Lainey's emerald blue skin took on a deeper hue. Max, sensing the charged atmosphere, trotted over and pawed at their legs until Lainey scooped him up. Well, Marcus said, watching as she naturally began to nurse the puppy, still amazed by how normal it seemed now. I suppose we can't disappoint our respective species. Indeed not, Lainey agreed, her free hand finding his. Though I must warn you, Commander, Etherean research methods can be quite thorough. Admiral Chanders cleared his throat. I'll take that as acceptance then. The official announcement will be made tomorrow. Try not to cause any diplomatic incidents before then. The hologram winked out, leaving them alone with their thoughts and possibilities. Thorough research, huh? Marcus raised an eyebrow. Oh yes, Lainey's smile turned predatory. Very thorough. After all, we need to understand everything about human-Etherean interaction. For science, of course. Of course, he agreed, pulling her closer. Though I have to admit, I'm still speechless every time I see you with Max. Good, she whispered against his ear, because I have so many more surprises to show you. Max yipped happily between them, a living symbol of the bridges they were building, between species, between cultures, and between hearts. The Joint Species Research Center occupied an entire floor of the Celestial Embassy, its laboratories equipped with the latest technology from both human and Etherean worlds. Marcus stood before a holographic display, reviewing the latest findings with a mixture of amazement and disbelief. You're absolutely certain about these results? He asked Dr. Elena Rawlings, the lead human geneticist. We've run the test 12 times, Elena confirmed, adjusting her spectacles. The Etherean adaptive biology isn't just compatible with human DNA. It gets actively responsive to it. It's like their entire genetic structure was designed to integrate with other species. Before Marcus could respond, Lainey swept into the lab, Max trotting faithfully at her heels. The puppy had grown considerably over the past weeks, though he still insisted on his nursing sessions. Marcus noticed she'd chosen to wear a traditional Etherian research uniform today, a shimmering garment that seemed to shift between transparency and opacity depending on the angle of view. "I see you've received the latest results," Lainey said, her silver eyes bright with excitement, "though I suspect you haven't gotten to the most interesting part yet." Elena's dark complexion took on a distinctly rosy hue. "I was just getting to that, Ambassador." "Getting to what?" Marcus asked, though something in Lainey's expression made his pulse quicken. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately," Lainey suggested, taking his arm. "Dr. Rawlings, would you mind watching Max for a few minutes?" The puppy had already made himself comfortable in the scientist's lap, clearly familiar with the routine. Elena nodded, trying to maintain her professional composure, despite the knowing looks exchanged between the commander and ambassador. In Lainey's private office adjacent to the lab, Marcus found himself pushed gently but firmly into a plush chair. "All right, what's got you so excited?" "The research team discovered something extraordinary about my recent physical changes," Lainey began, perching on her desk in front of him. "You've noticed I've been producing more milk than Max needs lately?" Marcus swallowed hard, very aware of the subtle changes in Lainey's figure over the past weeks. "I may have observed that. Yes. It's not just increased production," she continued, her voice taking on that musical quality that always sent shivers down his spine. "The composition has changed. My body is adapting, creating exactly what would be needed to nurture a hybrid child." The implications hit Marcus like a quantum core breach. "You mean, we're compatible, Marcus. Completely compatible." Her emerald blue skin seemed to glow with inner light. "My species' adaptive biology is already preparing for the possibility of carrying your child." Marcus stood, his mind reeling with the implications. "But that should be impossible. We're from different planets, different evolutionary paths. And yet," Lainey moved closer, taking his hands in hers, "here we are. My people's greatest strength has always been our ability to nurture life in all its forms. Why should that stop at the cellular level?" The door chimed, interrupting what promised to be an intense moment. Dr. Rawlings entered, looking apologetic but excited. "Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. Max's latest scans show cellular changes we've never seen before." They followed her back to the lab, where the puppy was being examined by an Etherian medical specialist. The holographic display showed his cellular structure, highlighting areas of unusual activity. "The ambassador's milk isn't just feeding him," Elena explained. "It's optimizing his entire biological system, his intelligence, his physical capabilities. They're developing far beyond normal canine parameters. He's adapting to be a perfect companion for both human and Etherian biology." Max wagged his tail at their attention, seeming to understand he was the topic of discussion. His eyes held an intelligence that suddenly seemed far more significant than the simple canine awareness. "This changes everything," Marcus breathed. "The implications for medical science alone." "It changes nothing," Lainey corrected softly, taking his hand. "It only confirms what we already knew. Life finds a way to connect, to adapt, to thrive. My people have always understood this. It's why we can nurture any creature, why our bodies can change to provide exactly what's needed." "And what exactly are you providing now?" Marcus asked, his voice husky. Lainey's smile was both tender and seductive. "Why don't we continue that discussion in private? I believe we were in the middle of something important when we were interrupted." Elena cleared her throat. "I'll just compile these results for the official report. Max can stay with me for a while longer." As they left the lab, Marcus caught sight of their reflection in the crystalline walls, the tall, strong human commander and the ethereally beautiful Etherian ambassador, walking in perfect step. Something about the image seemed right in a way he couldn't quite explain. Back in her office, Lainey activated the privacy shields, turning the transparent walls opaque. "You know," she said, moving close enough that he could feel the heat of her skin through their clothes, "in Etherian culture, when a female's body begins adapting for a potential mate, it's considered the deepest form of biological recognition. Is that your scientific way of saying you want to have my baby? Marcus tried to joke, but his voice came out rougher than intended. It's my way of saying my entire being recognizes you as my perfect match, she whispered, pressing against him. Just as I recognize Max's need for nurturing, my body recognizes our potential for creating something beautiful together. The kiss that followed was both tender and passionate, a perfect blend of human desire and Etherian adaptability. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, Marcus found himself once again speechless. Not just at the miracle of their compatibility, but at the depth of feeling between them. I love you, he said simply, the words feeling inadequate for the complexity of their connection. Lainey's answering smile was radiant. I know, I can feel it in every cell of my being. She took his hand and placed it over her heart. Just as I can feel our future growing stronger with each passing moment. A happy bark from outside reminded them they weren't alone in this journey. Their unique family, human, Etherian, and one very special puppy, was just the beginning of something much larger than themselves. The news broke during the morning cycle of Nexus Prime. Human-Etherian hybrid possibility confirmed, blazed across every hollow screen in the diplomatic sector. Marcus watched from Lainey's private quarters as various news channels dissected their relationship, their research, and most provocatively, the implications for both species. Well, Lainey said, emerging from her dressing chamber in a stunning diplomatic gown that emphasized her now noticeable curves. I suppose subtlety is no longer an option. She settled beside him on the plush couch, Max immediately claiming his spot in her lap for his morning feeding. The timing could have been better, Marcus admitted, watching a particularly sensational news anchor speculate about their intimate research methodology. We haven't even had a chance to inform our respective governments officially. His comm unit chimed with an incoming priority message. Admiral Chanders's holographic form materialized, looking more hairy than usual. Commander Ambassador, I assume you've seen the news? We're watching it now, Admiral, Marcus confirmed, unconsciously straightening his posture. The Earth Council is convening an emergency session. They're requesting your immediate presence, both of you. Chander's eyes flickered to where Lainey was naturally nursing Max, his expression softening slightly. They're particularly interested in the nurturing aspects of Etherian biology. Of course they are. Lainey's musical laugh held a note of irony. Humans seem fascinated by what comes perfectly naturally to us, though I must admit, your species has its own fascinating qualities. The Admiral cleared his throat. Yes, well, a diplomatic transport will arrive within the hour. And, congratulations, I suppose. Though next time, try to keep world-changing discoveries under wraps until after the paperwork is filed. After the transmission ended, Marcus turned to find Lainey watching him with those mesmerizing silver eyes. You're worried, she observed. The Earth Council isn't known for its progressive stance on interspecies relations, he admitted. And this goes beyond simple diplomacy. We're talking about potentially changing the course of human evolution. You're forgetting something important, Lainey said, gently shifting Max to her shoulder to burp him, a human practice she'd adopted with enthusiasm. Humans have an extraordinary capacity for adaptation. It's one of the things that drew me to you initially. Oh, not just my dashing good looks and military bearing, he teased, trying to lighten the mood. Those didn't hurt, she purred, leaning in close enough that her breath tickled his ear. But I saw something more. Humans possess an incredible drive to connect, to explore, to push boundaries. It's not so different from our own need to nurture and adapt. Their moment was interrupted by Max's insistent bark. The puppy had grown remarkably intelligent thanks to Lainey's nurturing and seemed to understand more of their conversations each day. Yes, little one, Lainey laughed. You're living proof of that connection. The diplomatic transport arrived exactly on schedule, its sleek form reflecting the crystalline towers of the embassy. As they boarded, Marcus noticed the mix of human and Etherian crew members working together with an efficiency that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Ambassador Lainey, the human pilot called out as they settled into their seats. My wife wanted me to thank you. Your research, we've been trying to have a child, but the fertility treatments weren't working. Now, with the possibility of Etherian medical applications, hope, Lainey said softly, squeezing Marcus's hand, is the most powerful force in any universe. The journey to Earth passed in a blur of preparation and strategy sessions. Max, now officially registered as a xenobiological research subject, remained surprisingly calm during the flight, though he refused to be separated from Laney for long. As they descended through Earth's atmosphere, the magnitude of their situation became clear. Crowds had gathered outside the council building, holding signs ranging from enthusiastic support to worried protest. Human Etherian unity, now. Preserve human purity. Love knows no species. Protect Earth's future. Quite the welcome committee, Marcus observed as their transport landed on the secure platform. They're afraid, Laney said, adjusting her formal robes while keeping Max close. Fear of change is universal, but so is the desire to grow, to evolve, to become more than we are. The council chamber was packed with representatives from both species, their murmurs falling silent as Marcus and Laney entered. Max, sensing the gravity of the moment, sat perfectly behaved at Laney's feet. Council President Richardson, a stern-faced man with steel-gray hair, spoke first. Commander Thane, Ambassador Laney, your research has caused quite a stir. With respect, Mr. President, Marcus began, but Laney stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. What causes a stir, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber, is not the research itself, but what it represents. The possibility that two species, evolved on different worlds, could be so perfectly compatible that they might create new life together. She gestured to Max, who stood proudly. This Earth creature, through my nurturing, has developed beyond what anyone thought possible. His intelligence, his adaptability, they're proof that when we open ourselves to new possibilities, miraculous things can happen. A murmur ran through the assembly. Laney continued, her hand finding Marcus's. My body's ability to nurture any young creature isn't just a biological function, it's a philosophy, a belief that life in all its forms deserves care and support to reach its full potential. And now, an Etherian Council member interjected, your body prepares to nurture a hybrid child? Yes, Laney said simply, her free hand resting on her abdomen. The gesture caused another wave of murmurs through the chamber, because love, like life itself, finds a way to adapt and grow. Marcus stepped forward, his military training evident in his bearing. What we've discovered isn't just about biology or politics, it's about the future, not just for our species, but for all species. The ability to adapt, to nurture, to grow together. Isn't that what civilization itself is about? The chamber erupted in discussion, but President Richardson raised his hand for silence. Perhaps, he said slowly, we should hear more about this remarkable journey of yours, starting with a simple gift of an Earth puppy. The Earth Council's decision came unanimously, a historic moment that would reshape the relationship between humans and Etherians forever. The Human Etherian Integration Initiative was established, with Marcus and Laney appointed as its primary ambassadors. But it was the more personal news that left Marcus truly speechless for the second time in his life. Pregnant, he repeated, staring at the holographic medical scan floating above Laney's abdomen. They were back in their private quarters at the Celestial Embassy, having returned from Earth 2 weeks after their council appearance. Twins, actually, Dr. Rawlings confirmed, her excitement barely contained. A boy and a girl, the first human Etherian hybrids in recorded history. Laney lay on the examination couch, her emerald blue skin practically glowing with joy. Max sat attentively beside her, his enhanced intelligence allowing him to understand the significance of the moment. The puppy had grown into a striking young dog, his white fur taking on an unusual iridescent quality from months of Etherian nurturing. The cellular adaptation is remarkable, Elena continued, manipulating the holographic display. Laney's body has created an entirely new biological framework to support hybrid development. The babies show characteristics of both species, but their genetic structure is completely stable. Marcus sank into a chair, overwhelmed. How far along? About 6 weeks, Laney answered, reaching for his hand. Remember that night after the quantum core incident? The one where you said we needed to conduct thorough research? He couldn't help but smile at the memory. The very same. Her silver eyes sparkled with mischief. Though I didn't expect our research to be quite so immediately successful. Max barked, demanding attention, and Laney automatically shifted to accommodate him for his evening feeding. The sight, once so shocking to Marcus, now filled him with warmth, especially knowing that soon she would be nursing their own children. The really fascinating part, Eleanor interjected, professional curiosity overriding any awkwardness, is how your body is preparing different milk compositions. One specifically for Max, another already developing for the twins. The level of biological adaptation is unprecedented. Not unprecedented, Lainey corrected gently. Just unknown to Earth science. My people have always known our bodies could adapt to nurture any life form. We simply never had the opportunity to create new life with another species before. Speaking of opportunities, Marcus said, finding his voice again, we should probably inform our superiors about this development before it leaks to the media again. Already taken care of, Lainey smiled. I sent official notifications to both the Earth Council and the Etherian High Command as soon as Elena confirmed the pregnancy. They're calling an emergency session to discuss the implications. Implications? Marcus raised an eyebrow. Political, social, medical. The existence of viable human Etherian offspring changes everything. Elena began packing up her equipment. Though I suspect they're more interested in the practical applications of Etherian nurturing abilities for human medicine. After the doctor left, Marcus sat on the edge of the examination couch, one hand gently caressing Lainey's abdomen while the other scratched behind Max's ears. Are you ready for this? All of it? I've been ready since the moment you walked into my office with this little one, she replied, stroking Max's head. Though I admit I didn't expect our family to grow quite so quickly. Family, Marcus tested the word. A human commander, an Etherian ambassador, a super-intelligent Earth dog, and twin hybrid babies. We're going to redefine the meaning of that word. We already have, Lainey's free hand found his. Every time I nurture Max, every time I feel our children growing within me, I'm reminded that love transcends species, transcends biology itself. Their moment was interrupted by an urgent communication from Admiral Chanders. The holographic display showed him looking both amused and exasperated. Congratulations are in order, I hear, he said without preamble. Though you two seem determined to keep my public relations team employed, handling the media frenzy. Sorry, sir, Marcus began, but Chanders waved him off. Don't be. This is exactly what we needed. Living proof that our species are truly compatible. The medical applications alone. He shook his head in wonder. The Etherian High Command is already proposing a joint medical facility specializing in cross-species care. Using our nurturing abilities to heal and support other species. Lainey nodded. It's what we've always done, just on a larger scale. They want you both to head the facility, Chanders continued. After the babies are born, of course. Speaking of which, his expression softened. My wife insisted I ask, will you be demonstrating Etherian nursing techniques at the medical center? She's fascinated by the whole concept. Lainey laughed, her musical voice filling the room. I would be honored. Though perhaps we should wait until I'm nursing the twins. Max might get jealous if I divide my attention too much right now. As if understanding, Max gave a proud bark and snuggled closer to Lainey. The sight of them together, his beloved partner nurturing their first family member while carrying their future children, filled Marcus with an emotion he couldn't quite name. You're staring again, Commander, Lainey teased after Chanders' hologram disappeared. Can you blame me? He leaned in to kiss her softly. You've made me speechless twice now. First with Max, and now with this miracle. Just wait, she whispered against his lips. I have a feeling our children will leave us both speechless many times over. That night, as they lay together in their bed, Max curled at their feet, Marcus placed his hand over Lainey's abdomen and felt the subtle changes already reshaping her body to nurture their hybrid children. The journey that had begun with a simple gift of a puppy had led them to this moment, the beginning of a new chapter in both human and Etherian history. I love you, he murmured into her white hair. All of you, our past, our present, and our future. And I love your capacity to embrace the unknown, she replied, her voice heavy with sleep. It's what makes humans so remarkable. Your ability to accept and celebrate new possibilities. Max shifted in his sleep, letting out a contented sigh that seemed to echo their own feelings of completion. Their unconventional family was about to grow even more unusual, but in the most beautiful way possible. The birthing chamber in the new Human Etherian Medical Center glowed with soft ambient light as Lainey cradled their newborn twins. Marcus stood beside her, still amazed by how the emerald blue patches on their skin shimmered in perfect harmony with their mother's complexion, while their father's human features showed clearly in their faces. "They're perfect," Marcus whispered, touching their daughter's tiny hand as she suckled contentedly. Their son, already fed, slept peacefully in a nearby bassinet. Max, now fully grown and more intelligent than any Earth dog in history, maintained his protective vigil at the foot of Lainey's bed. "Of course they are," Lainey smiled, her silver eyes bright with joy despite her exhaustion. "They're the best of both our species." The twins named Aurora and Atlas represented everything their parents had fought for over the past year. Their successful birth had already made headlines across both human and Etherian space. First hybrid twins herald new era of interspecies cooperation. Dr. Rawlings entered the chamber, beaming as she checked the medical readings. "The adaptations are remarkable. Both babies are perfectly healthy, and Lainey's body has produced distinct types of milk tailored to each child's unique genetic makeup." "Just like she did with Max," Marcus noted, scratching behind the dog's ears. Max's coat had developed an almost ethereal sheen over the months of Etherian nurturing, making him look more like a creature of starlight than an Earth canine. "Speaking of nurturing," Lainey said, a familiar mischievous glint entering her eyes despite her fatigue. "There's something I've been wanting to try, my love." Marcus recognized that tone. It usually preceded something that would leave him speechless. "Oh, now that I'm producing multiple types of milk, I've been researching some interesting applications." She shifted Aurora to her other breast, her movements deliberately sensual. "Did you know that Etherian milk can have quite powerful effects on adult partners?" Elena quickly gathered her medical tablets. "I'll just check on the other patients. Call if you need anything." She hurried out, trying to hide her grin. "Lainey," Marcus said carefully, "what exactly are you suggesting?" She reached for him with her free hand, pulling him closer. "I'm suggesting that once I've finished feeding our children, you might want to experience the nurturing gifts of an Etherian mate yourself. It's quite common in my culture, the ultimate expression of trust and intimacy between partners." Marcus felt his face flush hot. "You want to nurse me?" "The hormones produced during adult nursing are quite stimulating," she purred. "And given how compatible our species have proven to be, I suspect the effects would be extraordinary." Before Marcus could respond, Max let out what sounded suspiciously like a laugh. The dog's enhanced intelligence had given him an almost human sense of humor, and he clearly found his adoptive parents' interaction amusing. "Oh, hush," Lainey told him fondly. "You had your turn being nursed. Time to share." Marcus couldn't help but laugh, even as his pulse quickened at the suggestion. "You never cease to amaze me, my love. First a puppy, then our children, and now I want to share every aspect of my nurturing nature with my mate," she finished, her voice dropping to a seductive whisper. "Unless you're afraid of experiencing the full potential of Etherian intimacy." "Never afraid," he murmured, leaning in to kiss her. "Just perpetually astonished by you." A soft coo from Aurora reminded them of their parental duties. Marcus carefully lifted their daughter, placing her in the bassinet beside her brother, while Max took up his guard position between the twins. "Later," Lainey promised, her silver eyes dark with promise. "When the children are asleep, I'll show you exactly why Etherian mates are considered the most satisfying in the galaxy." "Is that a fact?" Marcus raised an eyebrow, his voice husky. Indeed. Why do you think I produced extra milk? My body knows exactly what you need. Even before you do." The intercom chimed, interrupting their heated moment. Admiral Chander's hologram appeared, tactfully focusing on their faces. "Sorry to interrupt, but the press is clamoring for a statement about the twins, and the Etherian High Council wants to discuss expanding the medical center's research into other compatible species." "Tell them all to wait," Lainey said firmly. "This is family time." "Of course," Chanders smiled. "Though I must admit, the success of your relationship has inspired quite a few other human Etherian couples. Your way of nurturing Max started quite the revolution." After the Admiral signed off, Marcus sat on the edge of Lainey's bed, watching their sleeping children while Max stood guard. "Did you ever imagine when I first brought you that orphan puppy that we'd end up here?" "I knew the moment I first nursed Max that something extraordinary was beginning," she replied, pulling him down beside her. though I didn't expect to end up with such a deliciously attractive human mate who still blushes at the thought of Etherean intimacy. I don't blush, he protested weakly, even as his cheeks warmed. You're blushing now, she teased, tracing a finger along his jaw. Just wait until tonight, my love. I'll give you entirely new reasons to be speechless. Max huffed what sounded distinctly like a sigh of exasperation, causing them both to laugh. Their unique family, human, Etherean, enhanced Earth dog, and hybrid twins, was unlike anything either species had seen before. But in their differences, they had found something universal, the power of love to nurture, adapt, and create something beautiful. I love you, Marcus whispered, holding his mate close while their children slept under Max's watchful eye. All of you, exactly as you are. And I love your human capacity for wonder, Lainey replied, her voice rich with promise. Now, about that private nurturing session later, Marcus was once again left speechless, though this time with eager anticipation.